Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Once again, just to let you know that Nelson Mandela has died today at the age of 95. The announcement coming from the president of South Africa about 20 minutes or 25 minutes ago. Mandela, of course, the iconic figure who returned South Africa to hope after it was torn apart by apartheid, and he spent, in fact, 27 years behind bars protesting and fighting apartheid, and he became the nation's first black president of South Africa back in 1994. So Nelson Mandela dies at the age of 95 today. We'll have much more on that a little bit later in the show, and also much more tomorrow as it becomes available. But I did point out to you earlier that the former president's friends and loved ones had been gathered around his bedside earlier in the week, and they called it his deathbed. So this was not altogether unexpected. Certainly, he had been in failing health for quite some time. Joining us now as we continue with the Steve Malzberg Show, and by the way, bottom of the hour, Dr. Ben Carson, who we spoke with a little bit right before the show actually started. So we won't be addressing the situation on Dr. Young because on the situation with Nelson Mandela because it hadn't happened yet. But joining us right now is Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, was a senior official at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services under George W. Bush. Hello, doctor. Good to talk to you again.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Okay, you co-wrote a piece with, of all people, Ezekiel Emanuel in the New York Times. I think it ran yesterday, talking about a projected doctor shortage, which the both of you collaborating say will not happen. Why could we not expect a doctor shortage when we've already been told that we kind of have one now, and with all the millions of more people who will be seeking doctors and fewer and fewer people, the reward of being a doctor financially going down? Why could we not anticipate that?
Well, a lot of the predictions of a doctor shortage make assumptions based on today's use of physician services. But people are saying, look, it takes this many physicians to service a given population of patients, and so we're going to be servicing more patients in the future because of the aging population and more people carrying insurance potentially, and so we're going to need more doctors. But they don't bake into those assumptions any view on how productivity is going to change among physicians, and also how the technology is going to change patterns of aging and patterns of illness. We know that over time, technology has enabled fewer physicians to treat more patients because the physicians themselves become more productive, and old age becomes less acute. Patients spend a few days in the hospitals. They're treated for illnesses as outpatients, sometimes with nurses instead of physicians because they're less acute, they're less ill. And so I think it's wrong to make straight-line assumptions from today's situation and not try to accommodate how things are going to evolve.
All right. When we talk about how things are going to evolve, you testified before Congress about the exchanges and keeping your doctor. And I know I'm sure there's plenty of places where you and Mr. Emanuel part company on agreement and go in your separate ways. Let's talk about that a little bit. Keeping your doctor is becoming less and less likely. Keeping your insurance is certainly next year going to hit the bulk of Americans when the employer mandate kicks in. So where are we headed?
Well, that's right. I mean, it's two different issues between a doctor shortage and whether or not you can keep your doctor under Obamacare. You're not going to be able to keep your doctor under Obamacare. I mean, there might be plenty of physicians, but the plans themselves aren't going to let you see them. Because what we're looking at under that scheme are insurance plans that are extremely restrictive. They have very narrow networks of providers. And so most people are going to look at those networks, and a lot of their doctors aren't going to be in them, and they won't be able to see the doctors that they've customarily seen in the past. I found a plan, for example, in Florida that only offered access to 7 pediatricians for a county with 260,000 kids. I found another plan in California where the nearest urologist was 80 miles away, and one plan that only had 9 dermatologists in its network, and they were all about 100 miles away from the county where the plan was supposed to service. So it's going to be hard to access physicians in a lot of these plans because of the way they were designed. This is really a throwback to the old HMO model. People rejected this in the 1990s in favor of flexible preferred provider organizations, and now they're being forced back onto those schemes.
Well, and it's going to give the appearance, in effect, of doctor shortages to the layman.
Absolutely.
You know, they're going to say, I can't see a doctor. There's no doctors around. They're only 100 miles away. The lines or to get an appointment for a pediatrician in that area with all those possible patients and 7 doctors. I mean, that's insane.
Well, but that's how Medicaid operates, for example. There are plenty of doctors available to service the Medicaid population, but
they're just not in the plan. Yeah.
So they're not in the plan. And so there'll be plenty of doctors in the future, in my opinion. There just aren't going to be doctors available to people who are in insurance schemes where, you're not paying enough or you're restricted access to physicians. Medicaid does that right now, and Obamacare is going to do that in the future. The insurance companies themselves are calling the Obamacare plan Medicaid Plus. We ought to take them at their word. If that's what they're calling the plans, that's exactly what they're going to be.
Yeah, well, we got about a minute and a half left. Made some news on this show with Mark Halpern saying that there were indeed death panels built into the bill. And now we find out that Obama is going to get to appoint those 15 panel members with just 51 votes in the Senate. Doesn't need 60 anymore. You agree
Right.
that we're headed for severe rationing and quote unquote death panels?
Well, I think that IPAB, the board you're talking about,
Yeah.
is unlikely to adjudicate access to individual technologies. I think what they're more likely to do is give Medicare and Medicaid, the agency, the authority to start making those decisions. And so I think you're going to see government agencies become much more involved in adjudicating access to specific technologies and deciding which groups of patients, should have access to a technology based on things like other illnesses they have or other assumptions about their
right.
their
Age. I mean,
well.
in Great Britain and all, it's age, it's expense,
Age is less likely, yeah.
productivity after the expense of the procedure or the equipment.
I think those are less likely, but certainly, they might say something like patients with very advanced heart failure are unlikely to benefit from a certain procedure, and
Right.
therefore it shouldn't, wouldn't be eligible for it.
Dr. Gottlieb, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, resident fellow, American Enterprise Institute, former Bush administration official in Medicare and Medicaid services, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, as I mentioned, we spoke to Dr. Ben Carson a short while before we went on the air. You'll hear that interview when we come back right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.